Hello, everyone. My name is Simon. I'm the founder and CEO of Stampix, and I'm very excited today to host this webinar. We're going to talk about emotions in loyalty programs, and to do so, I have brought two legendary loyalty ladies with me here today. First, I would like to start with you, Amanda Cromhout, CEO of Truth and author of a fantastic book that everyone should read, but also Loyalty Personality of the Year at the latest International Loyalty Awards. So not to spoil everything, welcome, Amanda, and please can you give us some more background of how you ended up in loyalty?
Oh, thanks, Simon. I was so excited to see all your sticky notes in the book.
It's the proof we've actually read it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, thanks. So I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion. So I'm the CEO and founder of a business called Truth. We're based in South Africa, but we service the world from Cape Town, and we are consultants, deep consultants in deep loyalty knowledge. We also run a training academy, which is probably our biggest secret, but I don't want it to be a secret, where we've got students from over 20 countries. So we really are able to service the world from Cape Town. And as you said, I've just released the Blind Loyalty book, which I'm sure we'll unpack a little bit today. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Really excited to chat to Celeste, who I know really well, and to you, Simon. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And Celeste Williams, pleasure to introduce you, Head of Vitality Marketing, Sponsorships, Experiential Marketing, Discovery Bank Rewards. So quite a lot under your umbrella, I think. Glad to see you here. And can you please introduce yourself as well to the audience?
Sure. Thanks, Simon. I'm really excited for this discussion. It's a topic really close to my heart. I've been with Discovery, which is a proudly South African company that's been going for about 30 years. So I've been with the company for about 20 years, of which I've worked on Vitality, which is really at the center and core, and we always say at the heart of the Discovery model. Now, Discovery is in the insurance space of long-term, short-term health insurance, and we've recently just gone into banking. And the Vitality model really underpins all these businesses. And we've got a really, really strong core purpose of making people healthier and enhancing and protecting their lives. And really what we've been able to do is take this very unique model across the world. And we're now in 40 different markets and actually impacting 40 million different people and making them healthier every day.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Can't wait to dive in. But first, a few practicalities for everyone. So a lot of people are joining and coming in. So don't hesitate to ask your questions in the chat box. I have brought Anjara here next to me, and she's taking care of these questions. So we've got a full hour, and at the end of the session, we will definitely have time to tackle your questions. Second, once in a while, you will see a poll appear. So give us some love and do participate in the poll. It's a simple question, and it's also a way to make it disappear again. And do stick around until the end. We have some exciting news to share at the end. So I think we can kick off immediately with the first poll. And the question here that you should see appear is, do any of your current loyalty strategies already take emotions into account? Giving you a second to vote. Voila. See quite a lot of different votes coming in. We'll share the results afterwards. So Amanda, let's start with you. And we've read so many great things in your book, 100 to be specific for every chapter. So let's go step by step. We've been hearing a lot about emotional loyalty, but when it comes to designing or especially executing a loyalty program, not so many teams seem to have it on their radar. What is your take on this, and why does it matter to forge an emotional bond?
Great, thanks, Simon. So thank you for the book. It's actually 101 loyalty concepts. Just teasing you. So it's no question that without an emotional loyalty strategy isn't an action in its own right. It's the result of a collective set of good actions when building and executing a loyalty program. So you can't wake up and say, tomorrow I'm going to make my loyalty program good in emotional loyalty. It's impossible to think like that. But if you get this right, there's absolutely no question it has impact. We've seen studies from some great consultancy firms like Artista, quoted in the book. So they claim that loyalty customers already are spending more than non-loyalty customers. But actually, if you get the emotional loyalty journey right, they're spending double those other loyalty members. And they quote this enormous figure of a 300% lifetime value increase, which is just insane. It's like a massive number. So if you can get that emotional connection right. And what you've just said, Simon, reminded me of when we were in Amsterdam recently. We were both at the Big Handshake in Amsterdam, and Hadi asked quite a lot of questions there around that. And actually, exactly as your poll is going to ask now, we saw that so many companies were saying, well, we currently don't know how to measure emotional loyalty. That was the majority of companies. We think it's more art than science, which is a really nice view of it. So we can actually take a different approach. It's not as scientific as just implementing the next step, so to speak. It's an accumulation of how your customers feel. And how they also said how well, the question I'm reading here is, how well is the organization set? How well are you set to actually try and get this right? And most organizations rated themselves really lowly, like the majority were 2 out of 5, 5 being high. And could your loyalty program deliver emotional loyalty? And they said, yes, it's actually top of our list of priorities. But again, it's not a one step. You can't tick the box. You've got to create that over time. And I think Celeste is going to be well placed to explain some of those things that just over time, by doing the right thing, you're gonna garnish that response, which is emotional loyalty, not the input. The input isn't emotional loyalty.
Yeah, I agree. So Celeste, I think this is a great opportunity to link to you, because you can demystify the common notion that financial institutions are stuck in transactional loyalty, right? Can you give us some examples of how Vitality does things differently?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, like what Amanda was saying, could it be scientific? And I think the way that we've set up Vitality over the years is we've got a really, really interesting scientific behavior change model. So most institutions, I mean, when you measure loyalty, it's a very transactional relationship. Most companies you do X and they will pay you Y. And mainly it's normally based on bad behaviors, spend more with me and I'll give you more. And how we've looked at it at Vitality is really flipped that model on its head and said, well, could we actually incentivize you on your good behavior rather than your bad behaviors? So we've got 3 Vitality programs, which are linked to our insurance businesses: Vitality Health, Vitality Drive, which is around safe driving, and then Vitality Money, which encourages responsible spending. So how this works, and I'll just give you a bit of an example, is we give massive incentives, and people often ask us, how are you able to give such massive rewards? It's almost too good to be true. But the way that we're able to do that is, changing people's behavior is really, really difficult. People find it difficult to exercise. They don't save enough. You need to give them incentives that encourage that behavior. So we give, I think it's up to 75% off gym and healthy food, and these are ways to lower barriers in terms of trying to get people to normally do things that are very difficult. And what we've seen is just this massive engagement of people doing these healthy activities. And how this sort of shared model that I was talking about in the beginning works is that we're then able to, as an insurer, this is hugely beneficial, saving us costs because you've got fewer hospital claims, fewer deaths, fewer accidents and claims on the road. But it's also good for society. But what we're basically able to do then is take that value that's been generated through this model and essentially give it back to our customers, creating this virtuous cycle, which is a win-win for everyone, and creating long-term engagement and changing habits over time.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. But it does require stakeholders, management, everybody to think in the long term, which is which is seldomly done, of course. So, Amanda, you also describe in the book these two types of behaviors, transactional and non-transactional. So, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I think the transactional needs very little introduction to anyone who touches loyalty. So it's the usual, as Celeste said, do this and get that. So spend at a grocery store and get either a discount or get points. Fill up your car and get points or money off. So it's literally a do this, get that. So that's very much how I describe the transactional. If you don't look at it with too much, there are other models, obviously, like a stamp card for a coffee shop, like get your 11th coffee for free. Or there's a beautiful example I use in the book of a German retailer called Kick and My Kick program. And on their 5th purchase, so their driving frequency, it's obviously a big play for their strategy. On your 5th transaction, you get 20% off your item of choice. So that's a big, brave, bold move. But they also won and were recognized at the International Loyalty Awards. So because it's different and their customers seem to love it. That's transactional. So non-transactional, in my opinion, and I've seen it through just how we've seen reactions in programs we're involved in, is where you are able, and I think the Vitality program is an absolutely incredible example of this, where you are able to engage with your customer beyond that transaction. Now, it's incredibly useful if you have a low volume transaction or a financial services environment where it's almost a begrudging experience sometimes, just to pay your premiums or to pay the bank or to have to bank, where you can engage, whether it's through simple things like doing what some of the companies need you to do to be a good banking client or a big, like exactly as Celeste said already, drive better or use our digital platforms, or more personal, like refer a friend or update your details so we can keep you updated on the best offers we have for you. And then there's another wonderful example of a longer term insurer in South Africa called Old Mutual that I quote in the book for what they've done around money education. So they've launched something called Moneyversity. You get points for that. You can join their program to do a number of financial wellness activities around speak to a financial advisor, understand your credit score. Now, you can imagine behind the scenes all of the data that Mutual are collecting. So ultimately, if you don't have to be a Mutual customer to even engage in that program, but ultimately when you decide you might need any of their long-term products, they know quite a lot about you because they've given you points that you can get money off elsewhere. But that's the kind of thing we're talking about. It's an ability to to engage outside of the touch point of transaction. There's a great quote from the Harvard Business Review that talks about if all you do is offer transactional exchange, it's nothing short of bribery. People need to feel part of a club. They need to feel part of something bigger than that to get that engagement and that emotional connection.
Yeah. Great quotes. So Celeste, you guys obviously have that emotional bond, but how do you deal with transactional behavior? Do you also reward that, or do you go for a combination sometimes of both?
Yeah, I think forming those emotional bonds is so important. Like we build in these communities. We've got incredible results of how using sort of your normal transactional, I guess, behaviors, because you need to do those, and how we reward and then incentivize them. So a lot of the time we look at, that full spectrum of the shared value model. And as people engage with either exercising more, driving better, we then reward them for those behaviors, So it is quite a transactional thing, but it's how we build the ecosystem, I think, around those. And a great example is a sort of exercise or fitness ecosystem, where we've really tried to build a fitness community. So what we've done is taken sort of a traditional, running club. Everyone's familiar with a running club, but it's intimidating to join. And what we've shown is getting these non-members who are very inactive off the couch and feeling like this sense of belonging. And what we did at the running clubs was create this hospitality experience, which completely, we partner with one of the top sort of retailers in South Africa and offer, amazing food. So it feels like very much like an airport lounge, a lounge environment, which gives our runners an opportunity to socialize, mix, and start to build. We've also, as part of that program, built up these Vitality running champs, which encourage the community and set up in all the different sort of cities around South Africa to encourage people. So it's more than just, the transactional, which is, okay, you've got to get active, join this fitness club or this running event. It's creating that experience that draws the emotion and the community that you need to build.
Mm-hmm. Great, and that's a great link to our next question, which is about member activity or sometimes inactivity. So I'm also going to take the opportunity to start a poll here again. Should be showing up any moment. So the question here is, do you have issues with non-engaged members or customers? Curious to see where that goes. First results seem to be what we expect, that many people have that issue. And in your book, Amanda, it's also what you call the number one of a loyalty program, right? Member engagement. And you have a 4-pillar communication framework there. Can you walk us through that?
Sure, yes. I'm absolutely not a communication expert, but there are a couple of chapters in the book about communication just for purpose of linking the importance of it to the loyalty execution. Because if you don't get this right, it's a huge hole in the experience for the members, because you actually have to communicate to be able to allow the members to experience what you're trying, take what Celeste said, if you want to join a Vitality running club, they've got to tell you about it. So how does that happen? The biggest mistake most organizations make, before I unpack the 4 pillars, is they write their plan and then they've spent millions in acquiring this beautiful database, and then they write their plan and they just push it out to this database. So they're just spamming the base with their calendar, with their priorities, and they're ticking their own to-do list and they're ticking their own box, but they're actually not necessarily driving the right customer response or the customer engagement. So what we work towards in our 4-pillar approach is, first of all, you've got to acquire customers, but that isn't really the role of, there's other ways to do that. So the loyalty program will be where you can entice customers to give you permission to play. So how do you do that? You either migrate members from other parts of your business or acquire through traditional marketing channels. And then most importantly, the 2nd pillar we call the loyalty operational communications, which is really around, are you keeping your customer really comfortable with how the program's working for them? So once they've signed up, are you confirming that? Are you letting them know, for example, if they haven't activated, getting them to activate? Are you letting them know that they've won an award? Vitality's got an absolutely incredible way of doing this through so many different ways, but it's like that, if you're changing tier, or if you're about to be downgraded from a tier, it's a really shitty message from an airline to say, oh, sorry, you're about to be downgraded. But if they can get that right, they could be saying, hey, listen, you've only got 3 months to maintain your bronze or silver tier. One more flight and you could stay there, and so forth. So there's a whole heap of things within the member engagement, loyalty operational communications that a loyalty brand has to get right. The 3rd tier is the first thing I talked about, is how communications are planned and then just sent as spam mail through to the database. That still has to happen, but mustn't be done in the first way I described it. So you've still got to communicate that you've got new products, possibly new prices, it's Black Friday tomorrow. I mean, goodness, whose inbox isn't full of stuff? So there's all these events that are happening, whether it's like as Celeste said, the announcement of an amazing running club that's Vitality are inviting you to be part of. That's a story they want to tell you. It's not necessarily linked to the loyalty program, but it's linked to the brand and so on. So that has to be delivered, but must be delivered in a way that makes sense for members. So you've got to overlay it with everything else I've said previously. And then last but not least, the fourth pillar is all around, once you've got customer data, understanding, as you said, you're going to have, as your poll said, there's going to be sleepy customers. So how do you reactivate customers, or how do you really help customers that are doing well with your program continue to do well and continue to love you? So it's slicing and dicing your data and applying a segmented approach to that. And all this has got to happen simultaneously. You've got to do the operational comms, you've got to do the brand push comms and the segmentation or lifestyle comms all at the same time. And that requires a level of planning and sophistication, which obviously great data and great technology will help you to do.
Yeah. And maybe a follow-up question. So have you seen any proof or data that a higher emotional engagement already results in or higher attachment emotionally drives in higher engagement on the member side?
So there's stats galore out there. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't quote them, but without question, every time I've looked at any part of this, they are correlated without question. But if you get it wrong and you just spam your database, that's just creating unhappiness. I mean, everyone in our office has been complaining about the Black Friday communications. We're like, I'm not even going to do a thing tomorrow because I'm just over it and it's not even started. Because that's just spam. But if they'd actually looked at my data and gone, we really know what she wants, we're going to meet her where she's at, we're going to help her through this. Yeah, it's a different experience. And that emotionally would have got me positively to spend more.
Yeah. And so, Celeste, do you do Black Friday offers, or what are some great examples that you can give?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing to remember is that you're building a relationship with your customer. You know, it's about a long-term relationship that you want to do over time, and you know, it's not so much of just send an email and an SMS or a text as what Amanda was saying. I mean, those are operational things, and you sometimes do, and sometimes you do get caught up in the Black Friday haze, and you got to try and see how you stand out in that. But I think if you're looking at your customer and understanding them from the time that you onboard them. So we've actually changed our strategy over the years to be in a very transactional, send an email, these are your benefits, this is what you do, to actually an interactive WhatsApp journey. And what we've seen is a much, like compared to email open rates, which we were getting really high, which is like 30-40% up to 50% on some of our communications. You know, our WhatsApp journeys are now reaching 80% engagement levels.
Wow.
And it's the journeys are now much more personalized. So it's asking people what they like, what they enjoy. So we're then able to personalize those journeys, those health journeys. So if you express an interest in signing up for gym, or you want to get fit, or you want to eat better, or we can then tailor those journeys. And what we're starting to do now is use the data out of these journeys to start to map your own personal journey. And I think eventually what we're going to be able to do is get to the point where Amanda's saying is like very personalized rewards, which we've started to play with in some of our products. But yeah, you need to reimagine every single touch point in your communication journey. It's not just about the traditional ways. You've got to think about these experiences and how you're taking it outside. And it's not just in the traditional sense, you know, it's looking at those other opportunities of where you're interacting with the member, that you can start to create these memories, these experiences that people talk about. Because otherwise your communication strategy is not just about sending push notifications. You know, it's that interaction, it's the two-way feedback versus then, you know, a single approach.
Yeah, great example, and interesting to learn that businesses are adopting WhatsApp as a communication channel. So the next, we've talked about emotional loyalty, the broader framework, then zoomed in on communication. So the next topic is closer to our hearts, which is the rewards themselves. And so I'm going to start as well here with a little poll for the audience. So where do you source, or where do you find new rewards for your program? And we have outlined a few options Let's see here. Okay, great. Amanda, what is your take on this topic? When we talk about rewards, what would be your advice? Should a brand look into its own catalog, owned rewards, work with partners? What's your take here?
I think it's got to go a few steps back before you can get to that answer. So strategically, why do you have a loyalty program? Number one, and strategically, what business objectives are you trying to achieve? Because then everything you do in creating that loyalty program will answer that first question or the first couple of questions. Once you've looked at that, you'll then look at, well, who are we trying to reward? Are we trying to reward every single customer who ever touches our brand, or specifically certain segments of our customer base, or all segments of our customer base, but reward them differently? So, Celeste might be able to talk to that, but you might find that some customers are just so much more responsive, or higher value customers, or so. Once you've decided who you're going to, or is it a B2B play? You've got organizations that are B2C, B2B, B2E. I heard B2G the other day, so business to government. So once you've decided who are you going to reward, what business objectives you're trying to reward, you've then got to decide, well, what behaviors are we trying to introduce, even before you get to the question you've asked me. And Celeste gave some incredible examples of their behaviors they're trying to change, or live a healthier lifestyle, be safer on the roads. So it's good for the individual, it's good for the environment and your community, and it's good for Discovery. So, what are those behaviors? So in a retail store, is it as simple as I said with the German retailer with the program MyKick, come in more frequently? So it doesn't have to be complex, but what are the behaviors you're trying to change? Only once you've done all of that can you really look at, well, what reward are we going to give? So I've quoted many a time what you do as Stampix as an incredible option for an emotional reaction, if it suits the customer type, the strategy we're trying to achieve, and the behaviors that you're trying to change. So it's only when you go through that thought process, I think, can you then unpack. And I always find, whenever we start the discussions with our clients, that it always comes straight to this. Well, we could give, like emotional responses through beautiful photographs that are sent to you, or points, or whatever it is, like discounts, or as simple as that. But I always get the client to reverse to answer the first questions, because without that, you can't get it right. And the last question we ask when we're going through this process is, well, what are the loyalty assets in your brand? So what do I mean by that? Like, what is it about your brand that differentiates you from your competitors, that customers, maybe money can't buy experiences? Or it might be as simple in Discovery's case that it could be a lunch for your top customers to meet Adrian Gore. I mean, he's the CEO of the business. He's an absolute legend in business worldwide. Like, that would mean more to me than points and prizes. So what is it in your armory, and I call those loyalty assets, that you've got that you could use that means so much more to your members than the traditional rewards that you think of?
Yeah, I think differentiation is often overlooked indeed, because you're not only competing with your competitors, you're competing with other loyalty programs out there, and there's only so many that you actually want to be engaged with. So Celeste, how do you deal with that at Vitality? Can you walk us back through the idea of rewarding the members for their healthy habits, which is so inspiring?
Yeah. So we constantly look at our rewards framework. I mean, every single year we need to check ourselves and make sure the rewards are still relevant, make a difference in our changing behavior, which is our ultimate objective. Luckily, we've got a really strong core purpose. And I think this is like, if you're a purpose-led organization and understanding that, everything else falls in place. Yeah. So you partner and your rewards speak to your purpose. So it's very easy for me to say, okay, like, I'm never going to partner with a sweets provider, for example, because the values don't align. And I guess a great example of this would be our Vitality Active Rewards program, which we launched in 2015. And essentially what it does is it gives small micro incentives for changing your healthy habits. And so what we wanted to do is, we know how difficult it is to exercise. People find it difficult. So we gamified the program. So basically gave each person a personalized exercise goal. And then if they achieved that goal within a week, they'd get a coffee or a smoothie. Now, these are micro incentives. And at the time, we had been given rewards, which still have a big place, our gym rewards, our healthy food rewards. But the interaction with the client was maybe once a month, maybe, a few times a year, to literally changing the program to a very ongoing relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember at the time, and we were like, can a coffee or smoothie really change behavior? Is a person going to run for this? And so there were massive debates, internally of whether it would. And I mean, we've seen incredible engagement. It's just actually mind-blowing. 25% of people exercising more. So really starting to see that massive shift about, looking at different types of rewards or something that just doesn't exist, and seeing whether that can work. It's a lot of trial and error, a lot of piloting.
But I'm hearing some interesting criteria. So one is brand values alignment, then exclusivity, and then I assume costs also is something that has to be tracked. But if you can get people to run for a coffee, that's already very impressive, I think.
So Celeste, I'll share a story with you. My daughter's just turned 18, which just turned 19. So she's old enough to have her own Vitality account now. And she's just discovered Active Rewards, and she came rushing into me, and she's very active. She's a swimmer. She's like, Mummy, I get a free coffee every week. I get this every week. And just that excitement of a free Vida coffee. She was so excited.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Amanda, there's also a great stat in your book again. So it's like 58% of customers that indicate that surprising gifts and offers are important to them. So do you have some nice examples that come to mind?
Yeah, so this is one of my absolute all-time favorites, and it comes actually from my airline days, because in my airline days, I used to encourage our team to phone out to our top customers on the British Airways Executive Club. And they'd be like, what do you mean we have to phone them? Like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, phone them and say, hi, I can see you've just landed back from New York. How was your trip? And when we got that right, the response was just overwhelming. They couldn't believe that the top executive team were phoning them. So we actually introduced with one of our clients in Mauritius, the Weave Rewards program, exactly that they would phone their customers on their birthday. They employed this as an outbound call strategy from, I think they had to slice and dice their data to manage the volume. So it would be the top customers. And Cecilia, who runs the program, she reported an over 300% engagement increase. So they were tracking engagement. I don't know the exact definition for her of engagement there, but 300%. And people couldn't believe that suddenly this program that is quite a transactional program across multi-partners is now phoning to say, hi, happy birthday, and how are you finding the program? And so just softer things like that. And then another lovely example, and we were talking about this off air earlier, that I interviewed the other day Adam Posner from Australia, and he has this term joyalty. Mm-hmm. And I asked him what's his favorite brand that demonstrates joyalty. And he talked about IKEA and how they give their top customers, and this is the most random thing ever, but it's amazing. They give their top customers free meatballs in their restaurants, which in the retail restaurants. And it's obviously like a real thing that people love. And if you're vegan, there's also vegan balls, like vegan meatballs. Yeah. And he loves this example because he just says, like it's so random and it's so obscure, but like it means so much. And I quoted that they give their loyalty members, extra childcare time, because walking around an IKEA store, if you enjoy it, it's going to take you a jolly old time. Yeah. But they give top members 30 minutes more time. Those are the softer benefits and the surprise and delight elements that you can't write in the terms and conditions very easily. You can't offer it to everybody, but it's the unexpected that make the massive difference. So there's a few examples, and there's a million examples, but I've just chosen those couple.
True. Celeste, do you have any examples to add?
I've got so many.
Or just one?
Yeah, the big one I think for us is again related to active rewards, which is we've got since the inception, which was 2015, we've got thousands of Vitality members who have not missed one exercise goal since they joined the program. So that's over 400 exercise sessions. And the numbers just keep growing, So we introduced this program called the Vitality Centurion. And essentially you get a limited edition T-shirt, which is personalized with how many goals you've hit. And that's every time you hit 100, 200, 300, 400, and will go up to 500 in time. And these people go completely crazy for these shirts, because it's finally I can wear it. I can be recognized for my ongoing achievement. So that's one example. And then the other one, which I really love, is where we kind of break through from the mold. So when I said we don't partner with any sweets companies, there's times that we've done something extreme. So during the holiday season, we've got, and in fact, we're going to be doing it. So this is hot off the press. Over December, we've got one of our retailers. There's a brand called Chuckles, which is similar to Whispers. I think it's the only way to kind of explain it, but it's really big in South Africa, and everybody knows about Chuckles. And we're planning to give that to everybody who hits their active rewards goal. So if you hit your exercise goal, you can go into any store and get a bag of Chuckles. So it's these surprise and delight types of initiatives which don't quite, they stand out because you wouldn't expect something like that from Vitality. And it's breaking through those kind of molds to bring you exciting things that surprise and delight.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. Next question, and also Paul, is a bit more tricky, but it's about calculating and justifying an investment in a reward. So I'm quickly going to pull up the next poll. So how would you calculate how much you can spend on a reward? So, okay, first is not spending, which many brands do. They just go for things that are free and exchanges or discounts that really don't cost them anything. And then there's a couple of other reasonings that different experts have voiced over, looking at annual revenue, lifetime value of the customer, purchase value on an individual product, or other. So cast your votes. Curious to see where that goes, but it seems like lifetime value is the winner so far. So yeah, that same question to you, Amanda. How would you handle clients that struggle with that question? What would you think is the most suitable framework?
It is a killer question because at the end of the day, you've got to make sure your program is rewarding customers accordingly. They might jump through a million hoops, metaphorically or physically, on the Vitality case. And they've got to feel like they're getting the appropriate reward. But obviously, it has to be sustainable. This isn't a short-term campaign. This is a long-term commitment from the organization. So we approach it sort of from many angles, but we'll recommend to clients to take a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach. So strategically, what you're trying to achieve, and cascade it down and go, if we were to achieve this, what is the change of behavior? What do we have left? What have we created as incremental performance? Mm-hmm. And then what have we got to play with once we've stripped all the operational costs out? And that's your kind of reward piece. And then from a bottom up point of view, if we have got this many customers and we can change their behavior by this amount, and then scenario plan it, if we were to give them this plus this and work out. But at the end of the day, you can't do that in isolation of your competitive environment. So it has to be competitive. If you're going into the marketplace with something that's really weak compared to your competitors, you will be taken to the cleaners. So, but exactly as Celeste has just said, a little surprise and delight like a bag of Chuckles could go an awful long way, more than the build-up of a more expensive, possibly weekly reward or monthly reward or whatever the program entices with. So I think it has to be commercially driven. It's a long-term commercial commitment, but it's got to be proven through incremental behavior. It can't be just rewarding for normal everyday behavior.
Oh. And Celeste, if you have a new idea or new rewards that you want to introduce, how do you convince the CFO?
So we actually have an incredible innovation cycle. We launch new products or rewards every single year. So in September every year, we have an announcement, I think very similar to sort of the Apple approach, is we'll enhance or change the program because, as I said in the beginning, we are a scientific wellness behavior change program, and you need to keep up with the latest science, technology trends, and all of that. So we have a Friday meeting in which a cross-section of the organization sits, and that's representative from finance to marketing to systems design, and we all sit together every week, and all of these ideas are then brought to those forums, and anybody can present an idea that they feel might have legs. It's then costed, it's weighed up. We look at lifetime value. I mean, Vitality is a brilliant model in terms of just showing how great it is to be able to use the data. More engaged Vitality members, so these would be our top end members on Gold and Diamond, are far less likely to leave Discovery. So when we're looking at rewards and how to reward people, obviously we take feedback from our customers first and foremost, and what they're looking at, but also then to say, okay, if these types of members are obviously good for the business, they're low risk. We actually joke about it because our top members, they have fewer hospital stays, fewer accidents, but also fewer divorce rates. Going into that kind of deal, it just really are the most incredible customers.
Wow.
And I think over time, it's about getting to that point where, okay, how do I flex our budgets and our resources and our rewards to either reward them more or less, and entice the other members to get more engaged and change that behavior, similar to what Amanda was saying, because they're already, enjoying all the lovely benefits. So it's a very careful balancing and scientific approach, I think.
It reminds me of a book I read called Managing Customer Value, and the author there describes it as a value ladder that you have to define for your business, and then you segment your customers, and it's basically a statistical or probabilistic approach of making a bet, like a gamble, on every segment on the likelihood of change behavior when you offer them a specific reward. And so I think that's an interesting framework as well. Cool. So we're already at the end of the questions. It's gone so fast, I think. So we do have still a little announcement to make. So I'm going to wait for Anjara to pull up a slide. Yes. So there is another webinar coming in a few weeks from now. It's actually pretty soon, the 6th of December. So it's with Philip Shelfer, who Amanda and I both met in Amsterdam, and then Charlie Hills, who's an expert on rewards as well. So do tune in for that. We will share it on our socials. And then the last one is that if you are looking to learn more about photo rewards, you see some colorful examples there on the picture. You can book a free creative session with Anjara here next to me, or if you want to learn more about these business cases, I'm there also for you. So with that, I want to thank Celeste and Amanda so much for their insights. It's been fantastic, and even the sun has come through here in Belgium from our discussion. So that's great. Any final comments from you guys?
No, I think just keep doing what you guys are doing, because I really do think you epitomize once, I actually haven't received such a gift as you offer, because, it's not yet available in South Africa, but you epitomize what it would feel like to get that unexpected reward. So I've loved your case studies. So thanks for inviting us to chat through other side of it. But from your point of view, you've got an incredible business.
Thanks so much. Celeste, thanks also for being here. It was great to learn more.
It was amazing. Thank you. And I think just to echo Amanda's points, it's a long play, building those experiences and memories. And I think what you guys are doing is incredible, because it's about those touch points, building those memories together to create that connection, which I really love. So thank you.
Yeah, and despite the difficult logistics in South Africa, we will keep on until we find a way to deliver. We can print down there, and there's definitely appetite. So I hope in 2024 we can announce our first customers there.
Yeah, lovely.
Cool. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.